Greece. In Sparta, they lived for about 500 years, from the 8th century to 3rd century BCE. Each Spartan, when he was born, would be tested to see if he was strong enough. If he was a strong, big baby, he would be kept. If he was scrawny and weak, he would be just left to die. After they got tested, once they got old enough, they would, like when they were 5, they would wrestle their father at roughhouse with friends. When they were 7, this was the hardest time for a Spartan mother, because her son would have to be put into a goge. The goge was a harsh training that each and every Spartan had to go through. The Spartans would be whipped, beaten, anything to make them stronger or tough. They'd beat each other. They'd fight each other till almost to the death. Once they were done with the goge, they'd stop at 18. Then they'd be in Spartan culture. They'd be considered a man or a Spartan. Then they'd get married and have kids before they went to war. Because if they died when they went to war, they'd have their kid to replace them. The girl would be raised, and she would not participate in anything that any of the men would participate. She would farm and collect food, harvest for the Spartan men when they came home. They take care of the kids, and that's all a girl would do. And the Spartans had a king, and the king wasn't the only one who decided all their decisions. They had the council, the Senate, called the Jerosa. They would decide things, like they would decide if the baby should die or stay. Then the Spartans were the best warriors of all time at that time, before guns and computer simulation. Against anything they were put up, other warriors they were put up to, they would win. Even the samurai, samurai and ninja, which were way after the Spartans, the Spartans could still beat them. Why the Spartans were so strong is because of their battle strategies. I'll show you the greatest war the Spartans went to was the Peloponnesian War. That was against Spartans in Athens, Sparta, and the Athens. And the Athens were winning at first, but then the Spartans took out their navy, which was their advantage, and that's what destroyed the Athens, and they won. The Spartans had 3 main weapons. They had the shield. That was their probably biggest advantage, the shield, because like I said, they could use it they use it for almost anything. They could bash somebody in the head with it. That's 40 pounds of bronze to your head. That will break almost every bone in your head. It can crack your neck open. It's not pretty sight. Then their main weapon was their spear. They used that for a lot of things. It's two-sided. They had the big blade and then the back blade. for stabbing people. Once they're like on the ground or knocked down, they could stab them, just come down like that, instead of having to flip their spear around and stab. It's much faster. And then their secondary weapon is their short sword. It's good for slashing. It's sharp on both sides, so it's fast. They only had 3 weapons, unlike the ninja, so they didn't have to, because the ninja has like 8 weapons. So he has to think of like, what situation am I in? What weapon should I use? The Spartans, all of their weapons were made so they'd be good against any situation they were put into. So one of the main reasons that the Spartans died is because they didn't get backup. In Spartan culture, they were not allowed to retreat. If they did, they were supposed to stand and fight till the death. If they did retreat, once they got back, they would be called a coward. And some Spartans were led to killing themselves because of all the torture from names and stuff. And if they sent a messenger back, the messenger would also be called names and stuff for retreating from battle. And the messenger would not make it in time because usually the Spartan battles were far away from Sparta because they wanted to keep the Spartan people as safe as possible. So I came up with a bird carrier thing. It's wire that's very light. It holds the message it wraps around the message, the wire, it holds on. It's very comfortable for the bird. And they didn't need any brushes. They could just use a stick. And there's plenty of blood to go around for ink. And that's the end of my presentation.